So we're going to continue talking about formatting. This movie we're going to focus on the alignment options, beginning on the Home tab in the Alignment group, and then we're going to launch the Format Cells dialog box where we have a few more options, including 4 additional horizontal options and 2 additional vertical options. And there are some instances where we can combine those vertical and horizontal options to create yet more options when it comes to aligning text and content in your cell. So the alignment options. I've got a worksheet set up here with some content in column B that contains text and values. I've got in 4 different boxes, first a description of those 4 additional horizontal options, and then a description of the 2 vertical options, and then a description of how we can combine those to create more alignment effects. And in column G, I've got some sample text that we're going to apply those alignment settings to. So to begin, in column B, we're looking at the default alignment that will occur when you put text or numbers into a cell. The content will be aligned to the bottom of the cell, text will be left aligned, and values will be right aligned. Generally speaking, if you have a column with values like this, you want them all to be in sync. This doesn't look that great, it's kind of hard to read. So we can use the alignment command buttons in the alignment group on the Home tab to do some adjusting. I'm going to select the text, and the alignment settings are reflected by the illuminated command buttons in the alignment group. It's left aligned and it's aligned to the bottom of the cell. Well, we have several other options. We can center align this in the center of the cell or align it to the top of the cell. So those are our vertical options. Horizontally, we can align it to the center of the cell or to the right of the cell. And we can also center it in the center of the cell by choosing to center it horizontally and vertically at the same time. So with these options, we can sync up the visual display of this content to make it look a bit more uniform and to line it up. So in addition to these command buttons that we have on the Home tab, we can left-click the dialog box launcher and get the Format Cells dialog box on the Alignment tab, where we have 4 additional horizontal options. The first 3 that are displayed, left, center, and right, are the ones that were just demonstrated that are the command buttons in the alignment group on the Home tab. But below that, we have some other options. I want to escape out of that, select my sample text, launch the Format Cells dialog box again, and select the first option, which is Fill. Really requires no explanation. We don't get a preview, but what happens is the entire width of the cell is filled with the content that was there in the first place. In this case, it was the word fill. You can create some interesting border effects by filling a cell with maybe the letter L or J or any sort of text that will then be repeated the entire width of the cell. The second option, selecting the second sample text, launching the dialog box, and choosing Justify. Applying that, the Justify setting wraps the text automatically, and if you have text that would require more than one line to display within the cell, you'll get more than one line for the text. But in addition to that, and it's sort of a subtle difference between the first line and the second line, the first line, the spaces between the words are a little bit wider than the second line. So Excel will adjust the space between the words to get the line to fit snugly between the left and right margin within the cell. So the next option, selecting the sample text, launching the dialog box, the drop down, center across selection, left clicking OK to apply that, it just centers the text in the center of the cell in the horizontal dimension. Distributed, selecting the text again, launching the dialog box, drop down, distributed indent, clicking OK, is similar to Justify. So the first line is exactly the same as in the Justify option, but the second line has been distributed to the left and right margin of the cell in the same way that the first line was. The spacing in between the words is increased so that Excel fills in the entire width of the column or the cell. So left-clicking the next sample piece of text, we're going to look at the vertical options. Again, the first three options, top, center, bottom, we've already reviewed. Those were the command buttons in the alignment group on the Home tab. So we're going to go on to Justify, and we get a vertical justification of the text, such that it fills the entire vertical dimension of the cell. So the first line of the text, you'll notice the word if is spaced further apart from the right edge of the column than the first line of the text in cell G5. Because in G5, the spacing in between the words was expanded to distribute the text from the left to the right side of the cell. With vertical justification, the spacing in between the words is standard, and the width between the lines is expanded to fill vertically the space in the cell from top to bottom. The next option, we're going to defer for a second, because this is used in conjunction with the horizontal distributed. And we're going to move on to the first combination that we have launching the Dialog box launcher, which is to horizontally justify and distribute vertically. Left-clicking OK, and we get a combination of what's in cell G5, where the spacing in between the words is expanded to fill the cell from left to right, and the result that we got in cell G9, so that the vertical dimension of the cell is completely filled by increasing the spacing in between the lines. So the last example we're going to look at is to combine the horizontal and vertical distributed settings. We're going to launch the dialog box one more time, choose distributed indent horizontally and distributed vertically. Left-clicking OK, and we get a result that you'll be able to see a little bit better if I expand the height of the row, that distributes the text from left to right by increasing the spacing in between the words, and also expands the spacing in between the lines so that the text is distributed vertically to fill the entire vertical height of the cell. So those are the alignment options when it comes to formatting cells. We have 6 standard settings in the alignment group on the Home tab, but in addition to that, we can launch the Format Cells dialog box where we have 4 additional horizontal options, 2 additional vertical options, and 2 different ways to combine those horizontal and vertical settings.